Hi, welcome to this week's conversation over the Gospel of Luke. I'm Joni Rawlings, and I've invited Parker Jones to have a conversation with me over Luke 8:40 through 9:9. Parker, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely.
So what was your favorite part about this passage?
Man, my favorite part had to be when Jesus raises Jairus' daughter from the dead. This is just an incredible moment. And every time we see a miracle of this scale, it points forward to the moment where Jesus himself raises from the dead and the resurrection of new life that also matters for you and me. And so we also were once dead in our trespasses. And the resurrection represents new life for us, new life in Jesus. And so every time we see a resurrection moment like Jesus raising Jairus' daughter, it has incredible implications for our faith. What about you? What was your favorite part?
My favorite part was when Jesus was on the way to heal the daughter, to raise the daughter from the dead. He stops and he's like, there's power that's coming out of me. And he stops and this woman comes in front of him trembling. And my favorite part is just the way that he addresses her. After she confesses that she's touched him, all he says is daughter. He addresses her as daughter. Now she has been unclean for 12 years.
Yeah.
I mean, she's probably been alienated from her family and friends, but he addresses her in the most intimate way. He says, daughter. And I love that part. That's amazing. So what was another part that stood out to you?
You know, you mentioned how the woman had this discharge for 12 years. She, for 12 years, was in misery. She was poor. She'd spent all her money on doctors and physicians trying to heal her. And that kind of represents where she's at in life. Meanwhile, Jairus is a ruler in the synagogue. He is a wealthy, likely recognizable civilian. He's been blessed for the last 12 years to have a time with his daughter, but now she has fallen ill. And so both of them are coming to Jesus at different points in their life, totally different contexts for each of them, yet they both approach Jesus in the same way, in desperation, but also in faith, in time of need. And Jesus takes the time to address both of them and both of their needs. Mm-hmm. And even though it's crunch time in order to get to Jairus' daughter, he doesn't neglect the woman with the discharge of blood. He makes time for both of them. So it's pretty. It was a pretty incredible story to read. What else stood out to you?
One thing that really stood out to me is typically when someone encounters an unclean person, if they touch someone, they become unclean. But in the case of Jesus, we know that he is Lord. There's nothing unclean about him. But so when she touches him, you would think that he would be unclean, but he actually makes her whole. Instead of him becoming unclean, he makes her whole. And I just love that. So Parker, what was one takeaway that you'll take from this week?
You know, when I read this, I thought about how it is applicable for me, and just every time I think about my past or a rough circumstance that I find myself in, or sometimes even the circumstance I'm in the present. We can look to a story like this and look at the circumstance that Jairus finds himself in, the circumstance that the woman with the discharge of blood finds herself in, and yet they can approach Jesus, they can approach the Savior, and so can we. We can come to Jesus. Hebrews 4:16 says, "Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need." And I just think that that's an application point for us when we read this story.
That's so amazing. Now it's your turn. I hope you have a conversation over the Gospel of Luke. Trust me, it's worth it.